so Dottie won't come after me for not having done that.
Thank you.
Yes, not a problem. So gentlemen, what we want to do today is, and neither one of you are able to access the screen now, so I'll just walk you through. I think I sent you a copy of the agenda. So what we want to do today is really start making some progress around what are some of the topics or areas that we want to focus on for roundtable discussions and conversations. We would like to be able to pull off this first roundtable in June. We had anticipated doing something in Q2, so that would actually fit well. And then I know we'll have the mini conference coming on the heel of that, which will then also give us the ability to have another roundtable in Q3 just before we head into Q4. We'll have the annual BSMA conference where we'll likely have a panel or so around digital transformation. And so having said that, what we wanted to do, let me quickly review some of the things that were covered in our last meeting, and we'll use that as our foundation point for where we're going moving forward. You might recall that in the last meeting, we reviewed the steering committee charter where we primarily had three primary elements. One, where we said we're going to develop practices that are going to help to create a digital roadmap, digital supply chain roadmaps. The other thing is that we want to establish leading practices for not only identifying, but also prioritizing what should those processes for digitization and digitalization really be, and how can we help the industry more holistically begin to home in on those particular processes. And then the third point that we had for our charge, or our charter, if you will, is we want to make sure that all the things that we do ultimately lead towards accelerating and improving the efficacy of the drug development process, manufacturing, and distribution, where we have complete visibility from raw materials all the way down to consumption at an individual level. So those are sort of our broad challenges as we think about our charter, and the committee seemed to be fine with that. The next thing that we talked about is we reviewed sort of the steering committee pathways. And there were some slight modifications. Again, there were about 4 points with respect to the pathways. And when we finished, we had some slight changes. And one came out to where we had one that was around, as a group, we want to ensure that all members of the Digitalization Steering Committee have the ability to collaborate with one another and learn from each other's successes, as well as what we refer to as those interesting stories, things that didn't necessarily pan out the way we thought they would, but nevertheless led to some pretty substantial learnings. And so I believe what I recall from the committee is that we wanted to bring that up. That needs to be one of the key things, because that's really the value proposition for everyone who's part of this Digital Transformation Steering Committee. The other change came with respect to point number 3, where we said we wanted to identify those areas of interest and need in the industry holistically as it pertains to digitalization. And I think the key point was we wanted it to be focused around digitalization and not just supply chain digitalization, which goes to a conversation Devendra and I were just having, which is this initiative, the ability to do this is really going to be the foundational pillars for moving our industry forward. So we'll focus on holistic digitalization, as well as identifying what should new business and operating models look like as it pertains to transforming the way we go to market now, the way we develop, the way we manufacture, and more importantly, are those consistent with changing care delivery plans and pathways that we're going to be seeing both in an inpatient environment as well as in an ambulatory environment, as we begin to see more care moving outside of the walls, ensuring that our approach to digitalization actually encompasses those. So I'm going to pause here to see if you had any thoughts and comments on those. Were sort of the two major changes or modifications that came out of our last meeting. Oh, Leon, you're back with us now.
Wow, twice, yeah.
There he is.
So I'm not hearing any thoughts or anything. So I assume
No.
that we're all in agreement with these modifications as they came about. I'm now sharing the screen now that you're back with us in person here.
So after we hear from Leon, I'll share my spontaneous thoughts that came to my mind as you were speaking, Randy.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll do the same. Yeah, I definitely agreed with everything that we recovered last time. In and around developing the roadmap and thinking about prioritization of those processes that are ripe for either digitalization or whatever. The other bit, the third bit, Randy, around accelerating and improving, everything around efficacy and drug development. Did we think about encompassing the return as well, or that traceability part? Is that we should, if we're thinking more holistically outside of supply chain, we really need to think about, that lot and patient traceability, not patient traceability from a privacy point of view, but from a serialization point of view, the return and the whole kind of circular economy of it all.
Perfect.
But then the challenge I have with that is it starts to get very big.
Right.
So we have to be quite focused on it.
So I want to jump in on that one, if I may, Leon.
Yeah.
First, I'm 100% in agreement with you. The supply chain is kind of circular, and returns is an integral part of the entire flow of goods, information, and everything else, correct? Capital.
Yep.
Now, with that said, I'll even take a data point that Susan Somerville, one of our original board members who used to be at Genentech, is now with Chronicled, has developed a blockchain solution where GSK and FDA and 10 other companies are involved. All they're doing is looking at the shelf life of the medicine, ensuring return at an optimal time, and actually ensuring security in the process. So that's a perfect use case, one perfect use case of what you were mentioning.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. Definitely.
100% agreement with you. I think Randy just put it up there, return, reverse logistics, critical part to close the loop. Well put.
That's a good point. And Devendra, do you know if we have any connections with a company called PharmaLink?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
So-
the one, I think they're based out of Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they are. Give me a request. You give me a request and I'll take an action item.
Okay, I know several of the executives there. I was just curious because it would seem that when we start talking about the return and reverse logistics, they have quite a bit of experience there. Now, granted, theirs is mostly restricted to the U.S. for the most part. But again, I think there are some learnings we can have there, and there are probably some other partners who do this on a more global scale.
My first reaction is we should collaborate with them. I feel exactly the way you do, Randy.
Okay.
And we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
It's their area of focus. We should bring them on board. And the other thing, if I may humbly suggest, let our focus be on the US to begin with.
Okay.
And there is another organization called RSL that originated 30, 40 years ago from my music days. And I'll look into that one, see if there's any relevance.
Okay, good.
But if you bring the PharmaLogic people, link people to present something with us, I can bring Chronicled, I can bring Susan Somerville to talk about the blockchain application.
Okay.
Along with FDA and other people. I could work on that one. I could take that as an action item.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Subbu, any thoughts, any reactions to what Randy said?
No, this makes sense, Dharmendra and Randy. And one of the other things I was hoping to bring forward here is, on the theme of digitization, all of us have been, or I'm assuming all of us across our industry peers may be part of some or the other form of initiative or a project or a program, where one of the common themes is digitization, or one of the common objectives or goal is digitization. I'm really curious to learn, some of us, our industry peers may be a little bit ahead of us, like me talking specifically about Gilead. I'm assuming, our colleagues in, let's say, Amgen or Merck or Bayer, they may be a few steps ahead of us in the digitization journey. How can we get some of the lessons learned, what has worked out really well, and if we were given a second chance to those colleagues who have been ahead of us in the digitization journey, if they wanted to do something differently, how we can bring those type of learnings in this forum to have mutual benefit. That's one of the themes I wanted to bring up, if that's okay.
Yeah, Subbu, that's a good point, and that's exactly what we thought the roundtables would be useful for. It's where we bring in some of those organizations that serve as exemplars in this particular space, and not having it be more of a stand and deliver, but more giving them the opportunity to sort of have their monologue, and then engaging in a conversation with the rest of the steering committee and whomever else is open up to, because you're right, that's where the true learnings are going to take place in this cross-pollination. And as we always said, even those who are far ahead, that likely means they made a lot more mistakes along the way, and we can learn from those and hopefully avoid those.
If I may add to just what you said, Randy, and to give Subbu's idea additional legs, I would say, if you would be kind enough to send a note to all our members of the steering committee, asking them, is there an area where you have a digitalization initiative that you're willing to talk about with the steering committee, and an organization that you may be involved with? Would you let us know? I think if we take Subbu's idea to the next step, if we just reached out to about 20 people that we have on this committee, and even if we got 3 responses, it'll be 3 more than what we have today.
Good point.
That's a great idea, Dharmendra. I can do that, or Randy, if you want to do that on behalf of the entire team, I'm open to the idea. I like the idea, Dharmendra.
So you know what? We could go both ways. I like you could do it and send it out to all the coming from you. If you said, look, we just had the steering committee meeting, and Randy has agreed that we should reach out to all of you and get your answer. Either one of you does it, it'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Randy,
go.
Randy, what I was going to, can I steal the screen for a minute?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
let me stop sharing so that you can have it.
Because, I think Subbu's got a really good idea. So if this works for me, and you have to forgive me because I'm not so good with, Dan, how do you do it? I could just share my desktop, I suppose. I think that'll work. Oh, I've got a Mac and I have to open the privacy, whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just read a big article of Mr. Cook.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's see if that'll work now. I've got my inbox, no, my desktop. Let's just try that.
There you go.
Yeah, that'll do.
Hey.
I'm just going to hide that. It might float up there though. Shoot. Here we go. So as a quick example, what I can do, if we're open to this, and whether Subbu sends out the mail or not, I'll pitch up and say that we can go first and maybe set the scene, and give an overview of our digital breakthrough objective and how we approached it, what our vision was, and how we were conceptualizing the end-to-end supply chain. I think Kevin presented this previously, this arc that we created. Yes. I can then explain how that breaks down into the different areas that we're looking at. So we go from the customer experience side through to sourcing, mobility, advanced analytics, and advanced planning. And some of our key objectives that we're looking at, RPA, digital twinning, things like that. And well, you don't need to know who the people are. But, I can talk around the 3 slides of some of the things that we are looking at, and just open it up for discussion and get input from other steering committee members if you want to go down that route.
Yeah, I love this idea. In fact, it sounds like we may have stumbled upon the first roundtable session.
Hey, Leon, that's an excellent idea. I'm really excited to see that, and thanks for sharing it. And this is exactly the type of learnings that I'm looking forward to. At least I can talk on my behalf or on behalf of Gilead. We have so many corporate-wide initiatives, and one of them being our ERP systems upgrading from EBS, and we are moving away to SAP. And this is
Okay.
a multi-phase initiative we are just embarking on this year. And digitization is one of the core themes that we are driving towards. So some of the KPIs that you called out on your slide is exactly the type of information that we are looking for right now. Even though today in our supply chain, we have some of the basic KPIs, like, forecast accuracies or on-time info, schedule attainment, schedule adherence. Those are, we believe those have been, pretty old school. And we have some level of maturity in those space, but we want to learn how to embark on this journey of digitization, and what are the new set of KPIs we need to tap into to give us the boost or the transformation that our supply chain, our manufacturing, our quality processes need, and how much we can benefit out of this program such as SAP or some other related initiatives. This is very good information. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no worries. I can even talk, give some anecdotes as we talk about it, and I'll give you a quick one now for the benefit of it. As we moved along this journey, so I've been on an end-to-end planning optimization journey since 2017, and I've got another roadmap slide that I can put out there, and it basically ties up the process improvement side of trying to make better what we're doing, coupled with the technology side. So we're always putting process before technology and not just looking at a new shiny piece of technology and trying to make it fit. So there's these two programs that we have that are kind of coupled to deliver that. So anecdotally, we fixed a lot of processes. We digitized them to try and make them more efficient. That created a whole raft of data that became available. We then subsequently wrapped around an analytics platform. So at the moment we're data rich, we're swimming in data and reports and things. And now we're going through that efficiency optimization stage to say, what's really relevant to Sabu's point? What are those key KPIs or metrics or trigger points that I need to measure? And then I can get rid of all of this waste, because somebody has to sustain all of those other reports that we created if there's a change, and that's just waste. So how do we really focus the attention of our supply chain professionals around the customer experience, or making sure that we put the patient first with these key measures? And we created this, I'm going to call it control tower, but everybody uses control tower for different things. But it's basically this umbrella, a unified analytics platform that you come in that's very focused around my role. If I am a buyer or a planner or a warehouse person or a manufacturing person, I've got a specific persona or view of my key things that I need to look at every day. And I've got alerts that tell me by exception where I need to go poke at. We have this mantra of detect, analyze, and act in terms of how we leverage what I'll call control tower. But so I can word that up and talk for hours, as you can see. I'm fairly passionate about it and a bit of a geek, so they kind of go hand in hand.
I think that's a prerequisite to be on this committee, Leon.
So Randy, I want to echo what you said earlier, and I want to operationalize what you said.
Okay.
Number one, this should be the topic of first maiden effort for the roundtable. This should be the topic. And what was going through my mind is, Leon presents that stuff for, let's say, 20, 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have three other executives, Subu being one of them, and we add two more. You moderate, and you guys then discuss the different implications of what he said. When Subi says, we can do this, and somebody says, by the way, what did you do there? and we have a 1 hour solid
Mhm.
focus on a very practical solution for the industry.
And
To me-
Devendra, just to jump in there, I would welcome the feedback from all of you other professionals with the experience that you've got, and it will help me definitely, because you can say, have you thought about this? Or we've got this use case over there, and we may not. We don't have all of the answers. This is just our first kind of drive into this, so we'd really welcome that sort of feedback from this committee as well.
And what we'll do, Leon, is prior to the roundtable, a week prior to that, we'll have all these other, let's say there's 4 of them on Randy's team, that will have their issues submitted to you in advance, so that when they bring it up at the roundtable event, the question is well served.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I get it.
So, so if I may play that back, Randy, you have a main speaker for the roundtable.
Right.
We need to find 2 more people to add. I'll let you do that. You moderate.
All right.
We have a 1 hour thing. I would like to issue a press release announcing this program a week from this Thursday. And all I need is Leon's photo, I have yours, and some description, Leon, of what this is all going to be about.
Okay.
Add to it Randy's component of the exchange that we're going to have. If you could give me that information by the end of this week, I will have a draft to all of you by Sunday of what that press release would look like. And then maybe next Tuesday or next Thursday, we'll issue it to the entire community and start generating attendance for it. How does that sound?
Go ahead.
Sounds
Gina.
good to me. Yeah, no, sounds good to me. Yeah, Randy, we can just touch base offline and just write down exactly what you need from me. But yeah,
Okay.
I'll touch base with Kevin. I have a meeting with him this Thursday actually, so we can get his input on where he wants to go with it as well from an Illumina point of view.
Great.
But yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Let's do a
And
quick.
from a marketing point of view, what I need, that I would of course rely on Randy, is a synopsis of maybe 50 words, 60 words on what this entire presentation is going to be. And then by adding these other executives, I'll add a little more verbiage to what the roundtable will be. And the roundtable will be headed by Randy, and we'll get the press release out a week from now.
Right. And I think, Leon, if we could check you and Sabu's calendar, right now, the tentative date for this is June 3rd. I think that's a Thursday.
So question on that, if that is not a good day, you know what? We have the flexibility.
Right. We can
to
change
move
it.
it. So let's decide. I think maybe delaying it by week gives us a little more time, Randy.
Okay.
Let's say we made it 10th of June.
Let me check. Let me double check, Devendra, because I think there may be another BSMA event on the calendar. Let me double check right quick.
Thank you, sir. I really want this to be a very solid foundational event.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you just designed it to be such.
Okay, let's see here. Month, June.
And while Ryan is looking, what we'll do is,
There's another roundtable on the 9th. I think that's why we were trying to go the week ahead of that. Now, we could go the week after, since we,
all right?
because I think the mini conference was moved.
Yes.
So we can either stick with the 3rd if it works, or we can go with something the following week, the week of the 16th, I believe, if we need to.
Third will be 10th and it'll be 17th. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm wide open on the 17th.
You know what? Let's pick 17th. Let's do it right, because this is brilliant.
Okay, so June 17th. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, let me modify this on my calendar, and I'll get this over to Andrea once we get the details.
Yes, sir. And then what will happen is this will become the broad menu for our digitization effort ongoing. And based on the feedback, the discussion that takes place on the 17th, we can say, hey, this is going to be a next item and this is going to be the following one. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yep, sounds good. Works for me. Hey, Devendra and Randy and Leon, I'm really loving the conversation. Would love to stay on for rest of the hour. I have a hard stop, unfortunately, now. Need to drop off. But
I think we accomplished our mission, Subbu, and we're all together, right?
Right.
yes, absolutely. I look forward to the further communication and the roundtable in June. And Leon, thanks for sharing the perspective. We'll do the communication that we agreed on.
But Subbu, I need your headshot and I need your bio, please, this week.
Yes, I will. I will provide the perspective from Gilead standpoint, and I would also send you to a couple of high-level themes or the use cases that we talked about, really high-level, strategic high-level, which are really the prioritization from Gilead standpoint. I'll provide some blurbs around that, and just to plant the seed in your head, you know, one of the areas that we are struggling with is around the product release. How do we make sure that we can take advantage of this digitalization to bring the supply chain, the regulatory, the manufacturing perspective all together to ensure timely product release in full compliance with the regulatory rules of each country? That is one of the critical use cases we are driving towards. I'll provide one or two blurbs around that and just planting the seed in your head before I send that email out.
Before I let you go, Subbu, are you a member of the Accumulation Synergy Consortium?
I don't think so, Devendra.
There's a consortium just created 2-3 months ago called the Accumulation Synergy Consortium out of San Francisco. GSK, Amgen, bunch of other companies are members. What they are trying to do is to enable companies, big and small, to get their FDA and FDA equivalent applications and approvals globally.
I see. No,
Okay.
I don't think I am a member of that, Devendra. That doesn't ring a bell.
All right, so take a look at that one, see if anyone at Gilead is. And the other one we have, which we are a member of, is the Clinical Trial Supply Management Consortium of GSK, SAP, 10th Pin, Eli Lilly, Amgen, and 8 other companies. And they are working on developing the clinical trials integrated system.
Yes,
So-
I believe we are part of that forum. Myself and one of my colleagues, Karen PAC. I believe
Perfect.
we are part of. Yeah.
Okay.
We are part of
I
that.
just wanted to bring to your attention 2 consortiums that are really helping us in the goals that Randy enunciated.
Got it. No, this is pretty exciting. Thanks for sharing this, Devendra. And apologies, I need to drop off for the next meeting, but
Okay.
we'll stay in touch. We'll stay in touch on these areas, and I'll send out the communication that we agreed on.
Okay.
Thank you, Subbu.
Okay, all right. Thanks. Talk to you guys.
Hey, Leon,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. I'm looking for help. And this is I want to use the frustration, but it's a lack of progress on my part. It's my failure over the last 14 years, where while we have got the supply chain executives coming together, focusing on problems, helping us make incredible advances over the last 13 years, they have never brought on board the IT folks,
Right.
who build some of these links that we're talking about. And I don't know why, but that remains an issue. And in my thick head, and you two correct me because you guys are my leaders here, correct me please. I believe in getting results. I'm a guy who believes in acting and not just thinking. So to me, if the stakeholders of this industry were just connected, the systems were connected, and then Visibility was provided in phase 2. And data analytics was provided in phase 3. And artificial intelligence was applied in phase 4. Those, to me, would be the logical steps of the ladder.
The Devendra, that's interesting. And let me see if I can pull it up and I'll share it with you all. A couple of years ago, I worked with Deloitte on an initiative with the Material Handling Institute, where we were looking at digital supply chains. And we put together what we refer to as a digital adoption pyramid. And let's see here if I can.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to spell out.
Okay, let me see if I can put my hands on this fairly.
Supply chain. It's a hierarchy that we must go through, where there's initial success, big bang, and then you work on more difficult things down the road.
Right.
And I really think if a clinical trials organization was connected with a CRO, was connected with the logistics company, with the IVRS company, the world would be different. Leon, am I going down the wrong tube?
No, you're right. I think I'll play back my thoughts. When you were talking about bringing the IT guys, that's a talent conversation, to be honest. So in the supply chain, I think there's definitely a lack of technical talent that understands the dynamics of how a supply chain works, theoretically and principally and practically, but then also understands the technology layer that enables that. So I think that there's, it's that digital connectivity and everything that enables. I think that's a really good view.
Yeah, because actually what we try to get organizations to understand is, there's so much enamorment with what's going on at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's not sustainable if we don't necessarily have these core connections in terms of how the information is going to flow, from where the information is going to flow, and then can we ultimately automate that flow, the integration and the aggregation of the data so that we can then rely on these advanced form of analytics and then various forms of AI.
Yep.
So this is brilliant, but I'm going to take some exceptions to this, what kind of spontaneous exceptions to this?
Yeah.
And hear me out. So we're building a pyramid, correct? And therefore, at the base of the pyramid, there should be things that I can do. Agreed so far?
Right.
Yep.
In that, things that I can do, blockchain doesn't fit in. Because blockchain is still in its primitive stage. It requires all kinds of stakeholders to come together because it's about creating a distributed, trusted relationship, a network. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, IoT does, cloud compute does, sensors do. And to me, that would be my bottom foundation of the pyramid. It would be, I like the cloud computing a lot because moving things to the cloud, enabling cloud formation allows geographical distances to be overcome, systems to get integrated. People could be all over the world and still connect to the same place. So cloud computing may very well be the most fundamental layer of the pyramid.
Yeah.
So Devendra, I think there are a couple of things at the bottom of that pyramid, which is those items at the bottom. If we go back to a point that Sabu made and that Leon made earlier, depending on the organization, they're at different levels of we'll say maturity. So whereas blockchain might be a challenge for some, it's table stakes for others. So the way those solutions are laid out there, it's a pick 'em, if you will. Pick and choose where you are. But I believe what we don't call out here, but we make the assumption, is that there's an operational backbone that's already in place. If you think about the ERPs, the warehouse management systems, the transaction management systems, all of the, or manufacturing execution systems, there's an assumption that all of those things are there, because if you have trouble there, trying to bring in this digital backbone is going to be extremely problematic.
So see, where I get bent out of shape when I look at this pyramid is the classical supply chain executive would say, you know what, inventory and network optimization is at the base. I build upon, I better have inventory and network optimization and visibility, and then that is my base. Then my next higher level thing would be cloud enablement. And then it would be Internet of Things. And then it would be predictive analytics. And then it would be artificial intelligence. What bent out of shape is, you're telling me today that for me to build this pyramid, I need to start with blockchain. And I can't even spell blockchain.
No, we're not saying you have to start with blockchain. We're saying blockchain can be one of those foundational technologies. It's not that you have to have.
So see, this is where you and I are looking at differently.
Yeah. So maybe what we need to do, is, why don't we take this and as a committee, we can work to adapt this and come out with a more descriptive, more prescriptive design of this.
Yeah, Randy, my take on this is, so this makes the assumption that there's a layer under digital connectivity.
That's
for
right.
me.
Yes.
There's a foundational layer. There's an ERP system underneath that we're assuming is connected or not, but we've got a suite of opportunities dependent on the maturity to think about digital connectivity. That might be cloud computing. It might be blockchain and distributed ledgers. It might be, I have an issue with sensors and automatic or identification being in there. That should be in automation, I think.
Should be.
But anyway, yeah. These are suites of a menu of things to think about that fall into these categories. But if as a steering committee, one of our charter items is to help people build out a roadmap, I think we have to do the due diligence and have that core foundational thing underneath that says, you need to look at your processes. You need to look within your ERP system. Is your global trade system connected to your ERP system? Is it connected to your MES system, to your PLM system? There's a whole thing internally that we can look at foundationally before I've even got the opportunity to step into pushing the future stages of digital optimization.
Absolutely, Leon. I fully agree with you. And, even in talking with a company we're all familiar with, if we think about Corning and the Gorilla Glass, one of the things that they have learned working with their clients is they will go out and they'll adopt various IoT solutions from different vendors and then realize there are interoperability challenges, even with IoT, that they did not anticipate.
Yes.
So I think you're right. We would have to do the due diligence, do the groundwork, and come up with I say taking this and exploding it, almost like a functional decomposition of it, if you will, and getting down to those basic elements to build to put forth building blocks of how organizations can actually start to look to mature their operations.
Yeah, I think it'd be good when we've got this little menu of things is to try and articulate some of the benefits from them. I mean, some of them are obvious, but it might just be good as we go through that menu to give some examples or benefits. A great example I'll use for Illumina is all of our newer instruments are IoT connected. So as they're installed and they're running their DNA sequences and things, they're connected to a network that the customer agrees to and everything, and we can see real-time consumption and track things by the batch. So using IoT, using sensors, using cloud, the robotics and automation, and some predictives and even AI, we can do predictive maintenance of our customers' equipment that's out in the field, theoretically. Those sort of use cases, and we can do demand sensing. We can take the consumption straight off the machine for a customer base and group it and do some sort of demand sensing on how their machines are running. There's so many different opportunities that we could wrap around use cases.
Good.
So I think you guys have come up with a brilliant new step that we need to take. And quoting, using your words, Randy and Leon, if we were to build our own pyramid, including the base that Leon just talked about and I talked about, building our own and getting some consensus, getting inputs from others. And after we've got all the inputs, that becomes our pyramid. Would be an excellent accomplishment of the steering committee. And then, as you were saying, then you can have use cases on different issues. We can do a survey and determine the maturity curve, maturity level of the enterprises. A lot of things can develop using that model, the pyramid of digitization. I'll take the first crack at it. I will send you in the next day or two my vision of the pyramid, Randy and Leon.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
And then maybe what Randy will have to do is solicit. He'll have to give them a kind of a template. Here's our starting one. Help us build the pyramid for digitalization for our industry, and we can do that over the next couple of months.
Right.
Yeah.
Devendra, when you started this, you brought up a point about, where is IT in all of this, right? And then Leon talked about it being, there's a talent issue, or there's a much larger talent conversations. I don't know if Illumina is seeing what we're seeing, but what we're seeing now is much like when we had this debate between HR and IS or IT. And what happened is HR started to hiring their own IT professionals. We're now seeing that in the supply chain space.
Yep.
Where now, as we say, your next IT leader is likely going to be a supply chain professional. And so one of the things I have yet to see that I think is important is a conversation amongst your CIOs, your CTOs, and your chief supply chain officers. And if there's a chief digital transformation officer, bring those in, because oftentimes what happens is there are competing reporting lines that prohibit them from even collaborating and working together within the same organizations. And so we're really not advancing, even though we think we are.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because Cebu kind of brought it up in their migration, and they're going to, an SAP platform now. Mm-hmm. There's so many different directions that you can take, even within one product. And I know this because I'm a geek and I'm that supply chain person that does bridge the IT group, which again has its own benefits, because you can't kid a kidder. They can't BS me because I understand what they're talking about. But what we do find is when you even think about the supply chain organization and the functions within that, and I'll say plan, source, deliver, there's multiple different technology options that I could use to do this sort of stuff. Right. So from a supply chain point of view, I have to have a technology roadmap that's harmonized. When I think about commercial, they need to do the same, and manufacturing and operations or quality, they need to do the same. There's definitely this benefit of bringing it all together corporately so that we're all on the same track. Otherwise, you just fly off down different avenues, and you don't get the value out of it. So just us as a steering committee, just recognizing or articulating some of those challenges, I think would be beneficial too.
Agreed.
So I'm going to share, Randy, more for your purview, where our strategic interest lies at BSMA. BSMA is nothing but the supply chain executives of our industry. They are BSMA. So I would never want to undermine them or circumvent them. Mm-hmm. Whatever, there are layers around them, there are other functions at their level. I would like to use our executives, the Kevin Peggles of the world, to bring on board these other functional areas of expertise. Mm-hmm. Right? So bear with me on that subject. And then if Kevin and Leon decide, you know what, I need to bring that technology person on board. By the way, we have a CDO at Illumina, we're going to invite him. Or we have a CIO, we're going to invite her. So that is the approach I would like us to consider. And, right? Leon, tell me if you feel differently.
No. So yeah, definitely. And I think when we have that conversation, I can articulate the benefit that I have with that partnership with the IT organization. Like I say, we collaborate and create that roadmap together. They keep it real for me. If I see some big shiny thing, they'll say, well, that's far too complicated. We really don't want to go there, but maybe we can go and look at this area. That kind of does the same thing. So that partnership that I have is really what's made me successful. And to the point around talent is, as I'm recruiting, I am clearly looking for talent that's got an understanding of the technology layer.
Right.
It's not theoretical. I don't really want to rely on people that are really good at Excel anymore.
Right.
We really need to be thinking about a connected technology layer. And honestly, I'll be candid, right? The talent that understands social media these days and how things work in that realm, they understand underneath that a technology layer of how things work. And there's so much that you can glean out of social media and how those different platforms are working. Having that sort of understanding is a huge benefit within the supply chain. You just have to have a tweet from an unhappy customer or something like that, and it turns your world upside down, because it goes viral and things spread so quickly. And maybe that's a different conversation for a different steering committee. But things are so dynamic and agile these days, enabled by technology. There's some challenges that it brings as well as benefits.
And the reason I sleep well at night, every night, is because I know my supply chain colleagues. They face the problem.
Yep.
They define the problem. And technology is an enabler, not the way around.
Right.
Yep.
They don't say, I got blockchain, where do I use it? No. They say, I got a problem with returns. And how do I solve it? Well, maybe blockchain can help me. Then they go to the technology guy and say, hey, can you solve this problem for me? That's why I feel good about what we're doing.
Yeah. Cool.
So I think we accomplished probably more than what we set out to accomplish today.
Yeah, I think we've accomplished a lot, and we've created more work for ourselves, it seems.
Yeah.
We'll address some of those in the next meeting.
Right. So let's go for the 17th of June. To recap, if I just get a brief synopsis of what Leon is going to present, and then he sends me his headshot bio. I asked Subbu for the same thing. I already have yours, Randy. I'll put a press release for you guys to review and finalize, and we'll get it out a week from Thursday at the latest, or let's plan a week from Thursday. And
Yep.
Randy will get a couple of more people to be on the roundtable, and we'll begin with a bang.
Okay, sounds
Cool.
good.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you all. Appreciate your time today.
Right.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you, Leon. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Have a good week. Thanks, guys. Bye.